ask you to join me and my 10 legendary friends as we record my next body of work, Legendary in His Presence, live at Sun City Super Bowl on the 5th of November 2022. So get your tickets now at CompuTicket, ShopRite, or check us to avoid disappointment. See you there.
It's a mega guaranteed jackpot weekend of 177 million rand on Powerball and Lotto games. Play Powerball for a guaranteed 70 million rand and Powerball Plus for a guaranteed 57 million rand this Friday. But wait, it doesn't stop there. Lotto is guaranteed at 50 million rand this Saturday. Buy your tickets now in store on nationallottery.co.za, the mobile app, cell phone banking, or simply dial *120 *7529# for USSD. Panda, Pusha, play. Players must be 18 years or older. Play responsibly. Ituba is the proud operator of the National Lottery.
9012. Better Together with Ntombi.
We are joined on the show by counseling psychologist Callan Walker to unpack postpartum depression and what are the dangers of postpartum depression if not treated.
In the milder cases of postpartum depression, we see a real impact on the parents, their relationships, and their quality of life. As the symptoms get worse, we can also see an impact on the baby and their bonding with the parents. This can have implications for their development and later on in their behavior. And in the more serious cases, parents can pose a risk to their babies when they're having suicidal thoughts or thoughts of hurting themselves or their baby.
Tembi, you're live on Radio 2000.
My baby just turned 3 months 2 weeks ago. You're going through something, you don't know what it is, right? You love your baby, At sometimes with the crying, you don't know what's wrong. She used to cry and I'll just look at her.
Oh my gosh.
Dark and Lovely. Ntombi on Radio 2000. Port Nollet, we've got you covered on 100.3 FM. Feel good music.
Sweet love. It's Radio 2000, ahead of the rest, second to none, loud, proud, and stereo, coast to coast. That is Trump's Kima Buditse Motwaka Horekistahwa, Kerobala, the piping, Ibila get happy, Ibila Ratabujala, Lebanyana.
All just a bad combination.
It's a good combination.
I don't have a mic, y'all. I don't have a mic.
Try this
y'all.
one. Try this one.
I don't have a mic.
Try this one, man. Because all you need is one
Hello.
mic.
There you have
Hello. Somebody hearing me today.
Yeah.
There we go.
I gave you my mic.
Yeah, thank you so much for
Exactly.
sacrificing
So
your
you
mic
must
for
stop
me,
complaining
Chaplain.
about parking money that you give me.
No.
And
I
the
don't
500
complain about
rand.
parking.
Do you know how much is that mic?
Do you know how much? Do you know what I complain about?
25,000 rand.
500 rands that you owe me. Remember the bet?
That mic is 25,000 rand.
It's owned by the Asabiasia
No,
Corporation.
by the taxpayer.
Asabiasia. Okay. Let me quickly tell you this. The SABC is aware of the South African Police Service alert warning the public of armed robbers acting as TV license inspectors. The corporation would like to appeal to the public to refrain from engaging with anyone visiting their homes for this purpose, as there are other methods that the SABC has employed for TV license collections which do not include home visits. So anybody who says that there are SABC TV license inspector coming to your home,
Hey,
it's a fraud.
This town, so many scammers, eh?
Especially during this time of year, right?
Yeah.
Especially during this time
Other
of year.
people pose as if they work for the city of Johannesburg, the municipality. And then when you open your gate for them, then like they rob you, you know?
Gosh.
So there are many scams around. So people should be vigilant.
Extra vigilant around this time as well, because crime is at an all-time high.
So we've got Fashionable Friday patiently waiting for our guest who should be here in a second or two. That's award-winning fashion brand Rubicon, which is celebrating 20 years in the industry. We'll be chatting to Hangwani Nengobela, founder and creative director of Rubicon.
But we also do have a topic today. What do you find most attractive about a person you are seeing for the very first time? Are you drawn to their physical appearance, what they're wearing, what shoes they're wearing, what cap they're wearing? Is it how they smell, or is it what they say?
What they say.
Kondeni, Venda, we've got you covered on 99.9 FM. Feel good music.
Just who you wanna be, and every night you shine. a comprehensive insurance quote from My Way and get the widest cover for your car. You will automatically go into a weekly draw to win your share of 1 million rand in fuel vouchers. Visit myway.co.za and live your way. My Way is a licensed non-life insurance FSP. T's and C's apply.
It's a mega guaranteed jackpot weekend of 177 million rand on Powerball and Lotto games. Play Powerball for a guaranteed 70 million rand and Powerball Plus for a guaranteed 57 million rand this Friday. But wait, it doesn't stop there. Lotto is guaranteed at 50 million rand this Saturday. Buy your tickets now in store on nationallottery.co.za, the mobile app, cell phone banking, or simply dial *120 *7529 hash for USSD. Panda, Pusha, play. Players must be 18 years or older. Play responsibly. Ituba is the proud operator of the National Lottery.
You're not ordinary, so why should your wedding be? Are you a unique and unconventional couple planning to get married in your own unique and bold way between now and December of 2022? If this sounds like you, then Married Our Way is looking for you. Be a part of our new and exciting wedding show and share your big day with the rest of South Africa on SABC2, where you belong. WhatsApp 060-834-2930.
Tiger Bear, we've got you covered on 99.5 FM. Feel good music.
2000 music, your memories. Good afternoon to you. Okay. Oh, both of them are working. That's fine. Oh, no. This one. Thank you. Let me get rid of this one. Okay. Aye. Okay, so we've got our guest. Unfortunately, she got delayed. We've got award-winning fashion brand Rubicon celebrating 20 years in the industry. Rubicon has enjoyed the support of many local celebrities, notably Me Basitana Kumalo, Me Ramichweni, and Me Carol Bauer. The brand showcased at SA Fashion Week last week and also showcased in Nigeria, London, Switzerland, and Paris. We've got Hangwani Nengobera in the studio, founder and creative director of Rubicon. Hello, Hangwani.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Yes.
And hello.
Why are you late?
I was still declaring my cameras downstairs.
How many cameras do you have? What cameras here?
I needed my own. It's better to come prepared. Yes.
Okay. They should have just let you in and then deal with the cameraman.
Yeah, security is on another level here.
Yeah. So please take us through your collection that you showcased at SA Fashion Week. You know, how was it received?
It's actually still very overwhelming.
Yes.
And it's inspired by the waterfall called Pipidi.
Pipidi, I know it.
Pipidi.
Okay.
Pipidi waterfall in Limpopo in Venda.
Yes.
I literally grew up, there. Obviously, sometimes we'll go there for picnic.
Yes.
But because Rubicon serves different types of women, I thought, we're coming from a very dark space. Just like water, we adapt like water.
Yes.
Having rocks in the streams of water, the water still goes through. So as human beings, we're quite resilient as well. We persist, and the inspiration comes from there. And the water, the waterfall in Limpopo,
yes.
Pipi the waterfall, it serves different types of women, people, as in picnic,
yes.
or be it women from the villages doing their laundry. Be it kids or even adults, they do swim there. It's such a beautiful heritage site.
So, is your focus on bespoke wear and high fashion or day-to-day wear?
I do have day-to-day wear. I've actually literally introduced a line called Myth of Origin. I'm very passionate about drawing inspiration from my heritage, which is obviously from both my maternal and paternal side. The myth of origin means us, African people, because our history is not really recorded quite well.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I brought in the myth of origin to say we're trying to explore ourselves, to find out where we come from, where we originated from, because is it really a fact that probably the Venda people came from the DRC, the Congo, and I draw inspiration from also the natural landscape. I'll bring that in my art form of my fabrics.
Okay.
And create probably, the waterfall, it's on the print now. I've created that as a print.
So Rubicon was started after, you left your advertising job. Was this an easy transition? And what was the response from your family?
I think I've been, a creative from a very young age, because my mother has got also the same business. She still designs even till today and make clothes. So I was exposed to this from a very young age. I started making clothes from a very young age, probably 7 years old. Helping, and I come from a very creative background, because her grandfather also used to be in the same business and would buy clothes downtown Joburg, and that's how he taught himself pattern making. He would tear the cloth apart to teach himself pattern making.
And tell me, because I don't remember ever coming across any of your stores. Where was your first Rubicon store?
It was at the Semi-Mark Square in Pretoria. Just across the State Theatre. It was a beautiful store, and unfortunately it closed down within I think after 3 years.
Okay.
Because of mismanagement, because I couldn't manage it. I was bedridden. I had a very difficult pregnancy with my son. So I let people manage, and that's when I realized that you need to bring in systems in place, like any other business. designers, you need to have business systems in place.
So 20 years is a long time.
It
I understand that you're celebrating 20 years in the industry. I mean, what's given you staying power at the fashion business?
Every time when I wanted to give up, something will present itself, and I'll I'll say, this is my calling. This is my calling. And then I'm very passionate. I used to be very passionate way before, but things happen. And I lost the desire as well, but something bigger will always come.
Absolutely.
Present itself. So my staying power is remaining true to myself and being organized, plan, goals, objectives, all those, they matter.
And tell us about the future. What does the future hold for the brand? And where do we buy? Where do we buy your clothes? Do we have to, you must to get your clothes where?
It's still really niche at the moment.
Okay.
Because I didn't want to, growing rapidly, it really closes you down quickly.
Yeah.
So niche being in my, it's very difficult to look after a niche market.
That's true.
They're very special people, in that manner, and very demanding, and I love them all. And hence now I've introduced the commercial line, which we have gone commercial before. We used to be like at Edgar's a few years ago. The Myth of Origin will be an extended product line for Rubicon, and it will be selling your ready-to-wear, your loungewear, urban wear, things that make you feel comfortable.
And then where do we find you on social media? Obviously.
So we've got an online store. You can go onto our website, rubiconclothing.co.za.
Okay.
And social media, it will be Rubicon Clothing, Facebook, Rubicon Clothing, Twitter, Rubicon Clothing.
Okay. No competition for that name.
No competition, but there is Rubicon. Some people thought I own the Rubicon Jeep.
Well, Hangwan, it's such a pleasure chatting to you.
Lovely.
We made it through the interview. I didn't think it was going to happen.
And it happened.
And it happened. So all the best to you. I'll be going online to check some of the stuff that you do. Maybe you can organize a tracksuit for me, just in Jeff for control.
It will be an honor. Absolutely honor. You're an icon.
Absolutely fantastic. Hangwani Nengobera, the founder and creative director of Rubicon. It's time for the news.
SABC News. Independent and impartial.
Top stories: ANC reacts to former president's comments and ESCOM to suspend load shedding. Good afternoon, I'm Roseanne Greef. The ANC has refused to be drawn into a public spat with its former presidents following criticism of the incumbent by Thabo Mbeki and Jacob Zuma. The former leaders decried the state of the ANC and government under President Cyril Ramaphosa. Zuma said his successor is corrupt and must be charged for treason, while Mbeki said the president had failed to handle the 2020 theft at his Palapala farm. ANC Acting Secretary General Paul Mashatile says they would rather engage their former leaders privately than in public.
Well, as officials of the ANC, we felt that we will have an opportunity to engage with our leaders. We don't like public spats. So at some point, we will have a meeting with them privately, internally, to iron out our differences, if any.
Suspended Public Protector Busisiwe Mkhwebane has told Parliament's Section 194 inquiry that she did not instruct her legal team to withdraw or change their mandate. Mkhwebane's legal team, led by Advocate Dali Mpofu, withdrew from the proceedings yesterday. The inquiry was established to determine Mkhwebane's fitness to hold office. Mkhwebane says she needs to consult with her lawyers to confirm their future participation.
I'm still saying the legal team has not withdrawn, as far as I'm concerned, unless they have other intentions. But how do I speak on behalf of the legal team when they are not here? So hence the meeting with them, the attorney. After that, we meet with the legal team, the counsel team, and understand, are you proceeding or are you not proceeding?
The Independent Policing Union of South Africa has defended the investigators in the Krugersdorp rape case. They say they are not to blame for the charges being dropped against 14 suspects. Yesterday, the NPA dropped charges of rape, sexual assault and robbery with aggravating circumstances against the group of suspects after DNA testing could not positively link them to the crime. The union's president, Bethwel Nkuna.
The police did not necessarily fail the victims. It is because those people that were arrested there. And now that they are going to be remain in custody for contravening the Immigrant Mining Act, they were found where the scene of crime has happened. So we need just to inform the public that them not being linked, it doesn't mean that the SAPS has failed. It offers the opportunity for the real suspect to be pursued.
Members of the public in Sandton, north of Johannesburg, says despite the U.S. Embassy's terror attack warning, they have continued to do what they usually do. The US, UK, France, Canada and Australia have issued travel advisories to South Africa. President Cyril Ramaphosa has described the US Embassy's warning as unfortunate. This member of the public has called on ministers in the security cluster to take charge of the situation.
Remember, South Africa, we've got a defense minister who is Mama Uthandi Modise. We've got Minister Mapoisa Ubabu Pegicel. So they are the ones who must take responsibility for this thing. I'm here for business, and I can't just run away. Everybody knows in Africa and South Africa, Sandton is the place where we can make our business and so that we can move quickly.
Eskom says it will suspend rolling blackouts this weekend. However, consumers can expect to be left in the dark again from 5 o'clock on Monday morning. The power utility says it will release further communication on Sunday or as soon as there are significant changes. The rand is at 18 rand 7 to the US dollar, 20 rand 87 to pound sterling and 18 rand 6 to the euro. Gold is at $1,644 and platinum at $944 per ounce. The price of Brent crude oil is at $95.80 a barrel. The top story at 4 o'clock. The ANC has refused to be drawn into a public spat with its former presidents following criticism of the incumbent by Thabo Mbeki and Jacob Zuma. More news at 4:30.
Making sport headlines in this hour, Stadium Management South Africa briefs up security ahead of the Soweto Derby, and the Australia-England match has been washed out by rain out in Melbourne. What a bummer. I'll give you details of these and more at 4:30.
We have different languages and cultures, but what we have in common is that we all want a dignified funeral and for our loved ones not to worry about money when the time comes. Trust Clientele to provide you with affordable funeral cover that will pay out within 24 hours. SMS Radio 2000 to 49708. That's Radio 2000 to 49708. SMS now. Clientele Life is a licensed life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates, terms and conditions apply.
Zuma said his successor is corrupt and must be charged with treason, while Mbeki said the president had failed to handle the 2020 theft at his Palapala farm well. Several provinces, including KwaZulu-Natal, the Northwest and Limpopo, have slammed the former leaders for publicly criticizing Ramaphosa. The ANC's acting Secretary-General, Paul Mashatile, says they would rather engage their former leaders privately than in public. He was speaking to the media on the sidelines of a wreath-laying ceremony at Oliver Tambo's grave in Watful, east of Johannesburg.
Well, as officials of the ANC, we felt that we will have an opportunity to engage with our leaders. We don't like public spats. So at some point, we will have a meeting with them privately, internally, to iron out our differences, if any.
Parliament Section 194 inquiry into Busisiwe Mkhwebane's fitness to hold office will resume on Tuesday next week. This is to allow the suspended public protector time to confirm her legal representation. Yesterday, her legal team, led by Dali Mpofu, withdrew from the proceedings. Mkhwebane then asked the inquiry to allow her up to 10 days to either get her old team back or consult with a new legal team. However, most MPs expressed concern about what they describe as constant delays from Mkhwebane's side. The chairperson of the inquiry, Nkqubadile Janchi, gave the ruling.
That want to resume the hearings as from Tuesday in relation to the leading of evidence of Mr. Niels van der Merwe as a committee. And what it means is that they would then, after Tuesday or Tuesday and a half, depending how much time we take, that after we have led that evidence, then we'll be left with then two witnesses to be cross-examined.
The SACP in KwaZulu-Natal has rubbished media reports that it plans to protest and disrupt the coronation of the Zulu King, Misisulu Kaswelatini, in Durban tomorrow. The party's Becky Shandu says they will never undermine the event. However, says they will continue to be critical of the Eswatini King, who is expected to attend the coronation. Shandu says King Mswati needs to allow democracy to prevail and have elections in that country.
There is no planned activity around the precinct of Moses Mabhida where there will be the coronation of King Misisulu Kaswelatini, because ourselves, as the SACP, we shall be part of that particular critical moment of the people of KwaZulu-Natal. Almost all the people who will be in attendance there are the ordinary working class and the poor, who are the people who are actually representing as the SACP, and we have their interest in our hearts, and for that reason, where they are, we shall be with them.
Further afield now, Germany's President Frank-Walter Steinmeier has accepted personal responsibility for the country's past attempt to engage with Russia. In a televised address to the nation, he described the invasion of Ukraine by Russia as the final failure of this policy, adding that the attempt to avoid war was also his failure.
The 24th of February was the end of an epoch. It has plunged us in Germany too into another time, into an insecurity we thought we had overcome, a time marked by war, violence and flight, by concerns about the expansion of war into a wildfire in Europe.
The top story: 8 men accused of several murders and attempted murders at the Gleblands hostel in KZN have been convicted in the Pietermaritzburg High Court. That's SAFM News. I'm Greg Gus.
SABC Sport is the official broadcaster of the FIFA World Cup Qatar 2022. Sisonke, together for the greatest game.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Some heavy pressure on Joburg's N3. It's a crash going south at London Road at Alex. Traffic back to Limbro Park. Also a collision heading up to the airport this afternoon, the R24, just after Barbara Road. So some delays building up behind that one. Trip time out of Pietermaritzburg down to Durban, plus minus 1 hour. Yeah, 60 minutes of queue time, Market Road, down to a stationary Greyhound bus near Linfield Park in the roadwork, so one lane open. That's the deal there. It's about 60 minutes to get out of Pietermaritzburg, just through to Linfield Park. And, of course, it's Friday and weekend volumes. And the R103, the alternative route, Polly Shorts down through Linfield Park, absolutely standing and looking terrible as well. Plenty of traffic also across parts of Durban, the M2 going north, a breakdown before Gateway and the roadworks. That's heavy from Queen Nandi Drive. M4 Mshlanga heading down into Durban's heavy. One lane open for the roadworks around Durban North, and the N2, plenty of queuing pressure as well. Southbound into Chatsworth, and then southbound through Prospect, and there's more backlogs. The other story we're watching today is out in Mpumalanga on the N4. It's heavy queues between Vanderfontein and Belfast. There's roadworks, there's single lane sections, there's a taxi crash, and there's some heavy mist as well. Prepare for some delays, but drive carefully. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
Beyond the Headline on SAFM. Weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m. Tweet at SAFM Radio and at John Gerika.
Johnny Feldren, it's Beyond the Headline on SAFM. Good to have you along. Good evening to you. Welcome to the program. It's 8 minutes past 5. We're going to take calls in a couple of seconds, but I love when we talk to historians because here's an historian, a senior lecturer at the University of KwaZulu-Natal, and I don't know, people know better than he does. And that's the great thing about history. History is kind of what you get told, right? You read it in a book, but that's somebody telling you a story. Somebody tells you a story. It's what you get told, and then you interpret it. Who's this from? It doesn't have a name, but somebody says Herod was a puppet king of the Roman Empire. He was no means a king of divine anointment. And then he criticizes, or they criticize the professor. So that's the joy of history, is its interpretation. And I remember my history teacher when I was at school saying history is irrelevant if you can't relate it to what it is today. And I think the professor did it nicely. And we ran out of time. I'd love to know about how that history, how important that is today with unifying people. The king. Can the king who unified these Christian missionaries and accepted them in and almost changed the Zulu nation, is that something that can still be done today, and especially in a country that seems to be divided? You at SAFM, let's take some calls. Let's go to Durban. Is it Pila in Durban? Hi.
Yes, hi John.
How's it? Go ahead.
Good man. Good afternoon to you and the SAFM listeners. Yes, I just want to touch on the issue of the king being more like a subordinate to the president.
Yes.
For me, that represents only one thing, John. It's colonialism. It means colonialism has still been upheld because a king cannot be a subordinate to anyone. And the blatant hypocrisy is there for everyone to see, because the people who endorse democracy, like the British and the first world countries, they don't practice democracy. They have established monarchs and they still uphold that system. You look at the British, for example, there were no elections for who is going to be a successor to the Queen. They still do it in the traditional way, and it is effective because as it stands, we don't really have a great example of a successful democracy in the entire world. Like, democracy has created even more inequality throughout the world. The standard of living has dropped drastically in countries that have done away with monarchs and established democracy. So there is no success in democracy, and the countries, the first world countries, they just lobby from the so-called independent, democratic countries like us, South Africa.
All right. Instead of disagreeing with you, Pila, I'm going to ask you a question in reply. If tomorrow somebody says, all right, we're not a democratic country tomorrow, all right, who does Pila in Durban want to be, for lack of a better word, the supreme ruler of South Africa?
Well, it can't be. South Africa is more like a unification of all kingdoms. So now each region has to have its own king, like in the olden days.
All right,
have
so
a Zulu king ruling over Zulu people, a Xhosa king ruling over Xhosa people, like that and like this.
And they make their own rules.
Yes, they make their own rules.
All right. What happens if there's a family, say, with a Zulu is married a Xhosa?
Well,
which rule do you follow?
Well, a Xhosa woman, if they marry into a Zulu family, then they follow the Zulu custom.
The Zulu
because
custom.
the woman, the woman will. When the woman marries into another family, they leave whatever customs that they had and marry into another one. That's how it has always been.
All right. So who's going to rule me? Because I'm neither Zulu nor Xhosa nor Sotho nor anything. I'm South African.
You will eventually be integrated into.
I've got to pick one. Must I pick one?
Not necessarily pick one, but it will depend who presides over the land where you live.
Oh, I see.
Yes.
Okay.
It will depend who presides over the region in which you live.
Okay.
Yes, that's how it's going to be.
All right. So I mean,
and that's how it is in the first world, in the successful first world countries, Arabic countries. You know, because they've established monarchs, and the standard of living is so high compared to ours.
All right. So let's say, and I know we've got to move on, Pila, but. You know, not all monarchs are lovely people. We've seen supreme leaders that are horrible people. What do we do in that case? How do we as a people just accept it, or do we have some sort of power?
Well, not necessarily, and I like your question because it also depends. I mean, the narrative of a horrible leader. Who determines that the leader is horrible?
He starts killing people because that's what he feels like doing. For example.
Yeah, I understand that because now there's been people who have been painted as being horrible. Gaddafi.
But you're not answering my question, Pila. Let's pretend that tomorrow this leader who's running my area turns out to be a horrible person. He starts killing people just because he disagrees with them.
Historically, a horrible leader has to be overthrown.
Okay, by the people.
Yes, by the people.
All right. So that's like democracy.
Pardon?
It's like democracy.
No, it's not like democracy. No, that's not democracy. When Dina and Bande decided to kill Shaka, they did not establish a democracy after that. They overthrew him, but they did not establish a democracy. No, it's not democracy. But they overthrew him because now he wasn't really serving the needs of the people.
I understand. Pila, you and I could talk for hours. It's been great chatting. Thanks for raising some lovely issues, and hopefully people will jump on that as well. Pila in Durban with his views on how we should run the country. I'd love to take your views as well. You can get hold of us on 086 000 2032. That's the studio number, and you can send us a WhatsApp on 0614 104 107.
You are listening to John Gerika on SFM.
It's 5:15. The big news over the last week. British, Canadian and Australian High Commissions now are amongst some of the embassies in South Africa that have communicated with their citizens on the US Embassy's warning of a possible terror attack in Sandton on Saturday. I thought it was Sunday, but let's say the weekend. Back at the South African government, they've discredited the US Embassy's warning. Let's find out what this could mean for you and I and how we can approach this security risk. Martin Huey is Senior Researcher and Technical Coordinator at the ENACT project at the Institute for Security Studies. Martin, thanks very much. Do we take this US Embassy warning seriously?
Yes, I think we definitely should not ignore it. It is an alert that is meant for us to exercise caution, have our security awareness in place, but not to panic. So it's not something to panic. It's just for us to mind our environment, mind where we are, mind where we put our foot, in the case where some people might want to do harm.
One of the things that's come out recently, Martin, is South Africa are a little bit aggrieved by this announcement because South Africa are saying that this has interrupted work that they were doing. South African intelligence knew about something and there were going to be arrests happening soon, but the US have now since scuttled that by that announcement. What do you make of that?
Yeah, we've heard that that theory part of it. Announcing it does not, I think announcing it to warn the public. I don't think that it takes it away because the U.S. has a responsibility to its citizens. If an American were to be injured or killed in an attack that the government knew that such an attack was going to happen, and it did not inform its people, it will be brought to court and most likely pay damages. So I think this is what makes some government, especially Western government, to wherever they have a credible threat to warn their citizens to avoid or to take various security measures at a specific point in time. And I think this is what they did. But I don't think that by releasing the information, you actually cause the South African not to be able to pursue the individual that they were pursuing. Because we've seen incidents where such an alert was actually issued and the South African security apparatus were still able to arrest the individuals. I think the Tutsi case is one typical case of that nature, where there were warnings, and but yet that did not actually, it did not damage any process that the South African intelligence was pursuing.
Right. What is the communication like, Martin Huey, between South Africa and the US and other nations as well when it comes to this? Because South Africa fighting back quite hard, and sources saying that there's just zero communication between different intelligences across the country, across the world.
Look, yeah, one should not overreact to what is being said now, because I think that what is happening, I see a two-track process. I see the government or politicians on the one hand, I see intelligence on the other hand. You talk to intelligence, they tell you something else. They tell you, yes, they did receive the alert before it was published. But you talk to government officials, they will tell you, no, nothing like that happened. We were not informed, and we are extremely angry at the U.S. government for publishing such information without our knowledge, and so on and so forth. So I think it's a matter of really communication, but one will also understand the fact that this information is published by U.S. security apparatus, the intelligence, who operate on their own modus operandi. They have their own procedures, how they do things, and informing politicians. Look, we are already bashing that they publish the information where they inform. Imagine they had shared that information with politicians, that there is this attack that is going to occur and so on. So they are fearful that this information may leak.
Right.
So that sharing of intelligence is something that is restricted to those who do intelligence. But I know that in Africa, there is a general discontent between African security apparatus, the intelligence, and U.S. intelligence.
Yes.
And the complaint is that the U.S. does share intelligence, but that intelligence is hardly complete. Most information is redacted in Washington before it comes here, and when it comes, there's so many questions that our security agencies are asking, and the U.S. is unable to provide answers.
Right.
If it is that's the problem that we face, not really one of sharing information.
Martin, from your perspective at the Institute for Security Studies, what is our current terror threat level, for lack of a better word? We've heard stories about foreigners, and it was on this program when I was filling in a while ago, about fundraising and ISIS making their way into places in this country. Is it something that as South Africans we should worry about, or do you think our security services are on top of this?
I think the security forces they're on top of it. They are doing their best. And I think that one needs to also recognize and if not congratulate them for haven't done a good job since 2002, the time that South Africa last experienced a major terror attack, and the fact that they've been able to keep the lead on the country for such a long time. I think this is something that one really should appreciate. But I think that there is also, when you speak to them, they are also fearful that the threat could go beyond their current capacity. And we know that South Africa has deployed in Mozambique. There are South African forces in Mozambique, which is against the interests and wishes of the Islamic State, which actually wants South Africa not to do so. So I will say that because of that alone, the threat of an attack in South Africa is now more than what it was before South Africa deployed in Mozambique. And I think that this should actually heighten the alertness of our security agencies.
Right, we're going to leave it there. Martin Newey, thank you very much. Senior Researcher and Technical Coordinator of the ENACT project at the Institute for Security Studies. Hopefully that enlightens you a little bit and lets you make a decision about what you're doing this weekend.
#SAFMBTH.
Going to go to JCK Kaunda in a minute, one of my favorite callers. But quickly, let's go to a message from Chapper. Chapper via WhatsApp says, I differ fundamentally and strongly with your caller who, it seems, wants to suggest that tribal kings are more democratic and fair in comparison with so-called Western colonialism. I think your caller is hinging towards feudalism instead. There can never be a fair and transparent kingship or royal rule under a one-man supreme controller dictatorship. This type of fantasy tribal kingship or royal governance is one of the causes of undemocratic societies. Thank you, Chapper. We'll take some more voice notes in a minute. In fact, we're going to go to voice notes first. Voice notes first, 0614 104 107.
Hello, John. Lovely show. I was listening to your interview with Gogo Mahlangu, and she was saying that they don't know her because they were young, the king. Does the Prime Minister, traditional Prime Minister, know her? It would just be good to know that, so that they maybe should have invited her as well, just for interest. Mune.
Good evening, John. Yeah, this ambulance issue might be really sad for the citizens, but it's extremely painful for the medical workers because they have to go into these communities, get robbed by people from these communities, and these communities do nothing. So this is the only way governments will hear their cry from when these people have been crying that they're getting robbed, their items are taken. The people are not actually robbing the ambulances, they want to rob these workers. So I think what they're doing is good. It's a good cause for them to be heard, but it's bad in the sense of the citizens. But it's the only way you'll get citizens to talk, because the same people that are robbing them are the same people living in the same communities, and they're known by these people, but they're not reporting them.
Hi, John. This is Agama Tebola. Those who think to celebrate the kingship in this country is no longer relevant. I sometimes think those who think they are educated enough, they wish to crush the culture that we have in South Africa. If your tribe doesn't celebrate the kingship like Amazulu, it is not our problem. Myself, I'm not a Zulu, but I like what is happening in the Zulu nation because I feel like included also. This is Agima Tebola Wena John. Good day.
5:25. Let's go to JCK Kaunda in Musina. Hello, JCK Kaunda.
Hey, are you well?
Always in you.
No, I'm not well, man.
Tell me
panicking.
why.
Yeah, I'm panicking with this terrorist threat, whatever you can name it.
Yeah, but you're in Musina.
Yeah, it's South Africa. Mind you, it's South Africa. We are near the border here.
Mm-hmm.
Anything is possible. Anything is possible because we have got porous borders, mind you. And the thing that with John, that makes me worry is in the Constitution, safety of citizens is enshrined in the Constitution. Our government is failing to implement that. You know, America didn't talk to the South African government because they know they're incompetent and then they are so arrogant. That's why they didn't talk to them direct about this threat.
Yeah, I was wondering why. Why our South Africans got so angry with the U.S. And there are these reports that the U.S. have ruined an investigation, a months-long investigation into this situation. The Americans ruined it, I guess, by saying there's going to be something. So maybe they weren't going to follow through. The criminals or the terrorists, whatever you want to call them, didn't follow through. But it seemed as if South Africa was protesting too much. Instead of going, thank you very much for that message, but we are safe. That's how they ended it. That's how they should have ended.
You see, John, the thing is that threat can be real or what? The bottom line must be, what is South African government doing now? John, I'm telling you, the whole world, it's only South Africa. Who does it know the people who are in its or her country? All the countries, they know Kaunda is in America, Kaunda is in China, Kaunda is in Mozambique. But only in South Africa, when you are in South Africa, the government doesn't know who is in the country. That is why we are failing. That's why we are failing. And John, that thing of July unrest started like this. Yeah. You know, government just brushing everything away. Because they don't care. They are safe there wherever they are. They are surrounded with soldiers, with police or whatever. But we as citizens, we are very much concerned. We are panicking. South Africa is the time that they must wake up and do. You know, ISIS can be here in South Africa. Every terroristic, team, whatever, they're here in South Africa.
All right.
But because of our intelligence, who are on sleeper mode, they don't know about that.
JCK,
now is the time to wake up. Thank you very much, John. Let it be a nice weekend and look after yourself and safety to everyone.
JCK Kohonda in Mosina, thank you very much. I'm off to Sandton tonight. I did the Friday. Is it Zipo in Richards Bay? Hello, Zipo.
John,
yes.
Good afternoon.
And to you.
Thank you, man. It was so interesting to hear the doctor giving us a bit of history.
The history lesson, yeah.
Yeah, I just want to comment about, I think it was Tukulo, was it? That seemed to have the issue that the Zulu kingdom is being prioritized over the other kingdoms.
Yes.
Yeah, I think he needs a little bit of history lesson too. The Zulu kingdom has never been this strong. Actually, in history, after the defeat of the Zulu nation, I think it was in 1879, it was at its weakest, John. But it was through the wisdom of the traditional prime minister, Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi, who is a graduate of Fort Hare, and I think in the 60s and early 60s and 70s, took it upon himself to revive the Zulu kingdom to what we seem to know it in the current days, and modernized it to fit in or to be of relevance to our current time. So I would then say to Tukulo, I'm not sure from which area he comes from, but we need, or they need, I hate to use that us and them mentality, but they need to find people like Prince Buthelezi of their nations to try and climb up the you know what I mean, the kingdoms.
Okay.
It shouldn't be a problem of the Zulu kingdom that the other nations are failing. You know what I mean?
Very good point.
I'm trying to.
No, it's a very good point. It's a really ridiculous analogy, but it's like a rugby team. Just because I support, and a whole lot of people, Formula One's a good example. A whole lot of people support Lewis Hamilton doesn't mean that he's a bad driver if you don't support him. He's still a very good driver. But just because I don't support him, you can't take away the fact he's a very good driver. For example, and it's a silly analogy, but it's the same sort of thing. Just because you don't support him doesn't mean they're not doing good work, for example. And it's up to you to make your driver up there and take your flags and take your posters and go and wear orange or whatever the case may be. Bad analogy, but I understand. Hopefully you understand what I mean. Sports analogies at their best. You're with SAFM. Speaking of sports, coming up in a moment. First, news headlines at 5:30.
In the headlines at this half hour, the National Joint Operational and Intelligence Structure has given an assurance that it hasn't confirmed the veracity of any terror threat at this stage. The men accused of several murders and attempted murders at the Gleedlooms Hostel in KZN have been convicted in the Pietermaritzburg High Court. And Iranians have kept up protests calling for the toppling of the Islamic Republic. A full update at 6 o'clock.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
I'll take you down to Limpopo, just north of Burgersfort on the R37. There's roadworks towards Driekop, and traffic is hardly moving. These are not new roadworks. They've been there for a while, but looks like something's gone terribly wrong. Motorists are literally out of their vehicles, nothing moving north of Burgersfort. If you've got to go that way, it might be an idea to arrive later this afternoon rather than right into the middle of it. Joburg looks all right, surprisingly, for a Friday into the month. So does the M1 through Pretoria, looking good as well. Now, if you're driving from Pietermaritzburg to Durban, we've got a stationary Greyhound bus in the roadworks near Linfield Park, only one lane open. You've got about a 60-minute trip time, close to an hour, to get from the bottom of Pietermaritzburg bypass Market Road down through that obstruction. That's a very heavy backlog. The R103 alternative route, not looking too friendly either. That's absolutely jam Polly Shorts down to Linfield Park. And if you're going to Pietermaritzburg, there's also a stationary vehicle at Linfield Park. So from Umlas Road, that all backs up. The N2 North still got a broken down vehicle in the construction between Komashu and Gateway, so some heavy pressure there from Queen Nandi Drive. And the N2 going south onto the south coast is heavy at Prospect. And today, also Cape Town, not a bad Friday afternoon. The CBD's cleared out a long time ago, so that all looks okay. The R300's got you queuing up, though, from the Stellenbosch Arterial Road. You'll sit in some traffic as far as the N2 highway off-ramp. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
Here, there, and everywhere. SAFM 105 FM in Pietermaritzburg.
SABC Sport is the official broadcaster of the FIFA World Cup Qatar 2022. Sisonke, together for the greatest game.
This is SAFM Sport with Thabiso Musia.
Immediately after I was informed of this notice, I engaged with the Event Safety and Security Planning Committee, planning this event, and escalated it to the authorized member. He then, at that point in time, was already aware of it as well, and he indicated that it's been escalated to national state security, and that we will be informed if there's any immediate threat that we need to be concerned of. That will affect the planning.
They will also beef up your team at the stadium.
Yes.
Good team. They rely on transition, but I think we've got a plan for them. We expect the 50-50 game where we'll push each other. But I think the ball position will help us in the next coming games. We need to control the game.
Find out. I know that Edu's been in touch with his relatives and that he's in hospital and he seems to be okay, but I don't know. I would have a briefing now about the situation, what happened, and obviously we'll be in touch with him and hopefully he's okay.
It's an interesting one. I've always been an advocate for consistency and cohesion in the team. He is the captain of the team. He was going to play in the tournament. And, I think a person that has the best knowledge of how he is and where he is at the moment in his game is him himself. You might find he's in the nets and he's playing really well and he just needs that innings to kick in. He does complement Quinton de Kock. Sometimes you can't have two Quinton de Kocks batting. You need the openers to complement each other. But I'm sure, like anybody else, he would love to get some runs under the belt and get his confidence going. But hopefully, he gets another game and he finds his form.
Let me just say, I was comfortable for a while, and as a person, I feel like I was at a point where I was growing up, still growing. So no issues, but then I had some personal issues. I had an accident, and then 2 weeks after, and then they said I'm gonna fight him. So my head was everywhere. I was not in a fight, but no excuse. He done his job. But then after that loss, I was like, no. It's time now I have to take my career serious because I sacrificed everything, school, everything.
Sport is the official broadcaster of the FIFA World Cup Qatar 2022. Sisonke, together for the greatest game.
Tune in to your television. Come and see me, David Gao, and my kids and more friends on the all-new season of Takalani Sesame.
All new episodes weekdays at 3:30 on SABC2.
President Cyril Ramaphosa will on Saturday officially hand over the certificate of recognition to AmaZulu King Misuzulu Kazwelithini at the Moses Mabhida Stadium in Durban. Tune in to SAFM as we bring you rolling coverage with a special broadcast of this historic occasion by Aldrin Sampier and Sakina Kamwendo. SAFM, leading the conversation.
Economic news on SAFM. Facts and figures you can count on.
Anyway, market update with Fifi Peters. Afternoon to you, Fifi. What's been happening today?
Hey, a lot of cooling off, I think, is how I'd describe the market session today. So it has been quite the eventful week. I mean, from the budget by the finance minister on Wednesday, we had US GDP growth figures being released yesterday. We had a rates decision coming out of the Europe Central Bank as well as the Bank of Japan. And, of course, we had the threat of a possible terror attack that the markets had to digest. But they really brush that over like most people, it would seem. You're not going to catch me in the Sandton area this weekend.
Really?
But,
are you?
Yeah, but
are you taking it seriously?
I am. I'm certainly taking it seriously, and whatever happens, I still want to be around on Monday, as it were. Okay. But just bringing it back to your money and how it worked in today's session. As I said, a lot of cooling off with the JSE finishing lower. In fact, most stocks, particularly mining shares, being the biggest drags on the market in today's session, as well as a lot of these companies that make a lot of their money outside of South Africa. But we've got Wayne Makari, Senior Portfolio Manager at Absa Asset, at FNB Wealth and Investments. Apologies for that, on the show for more. So Wayne, not much action happening today. Probably a good thing because it gave you guys a lot of time to digest all the action of the week.
Yes, it was a very eventful week. I mean, as you mentioned, the budget was actually quite good. I mean, there's more revenue coming in than what was anticipated, and our debt will probably stabilize at still a high level, but a much lower level than what was envisaged a couple of years back. So that was still good news. The US GDP was actually quite good. But of course, the real big thing is what's happening in China. I mean, the world's going through an economic slowdown now because of high interest rates and high inflation. And China is compounding this problem with this zero COVID policy. I mean, the Chinese economy, it will still grow, but it's going to grow at much lower rate than what people were anticipating literally a couple of months ago. Chinese growth in the last 15 years has gone from 15% a year, and this year it might only grow at 3%. And of course, China has been the engine for economic growth worldwide for a very long time. So any companies with China exposure, either directly or indirectly, were hammered today. So the mining shares were hammered because essentially China sets the price of resources. Iron ore, coal, oil, the whole lot. And any company that had direct China exposure, like Naspers and Process via Tencent in China, not only is the economy slowing down, but the government seems quite adamant in cracking down on the power of these big social media and games companies and tech companies in China. And that's been going on for a while. And of course, there's just we all know about the re-election and a few changes going on in leadership in China. So this didn't look good at all. So we had essentially mining shares, Process and Naspers down 3%. The financials didn't too badly. 91 did reasonably well. The banks did reasonably well. The rand a little bit weaker at 18.17 against the dollar. All commodities prices are down. Now, I know we'll get a fuel price increase next year, but at least the oil price is getting back towards 90 now, at about 93. And then, of course, the big news really from overseas was the metaverse.
Meltdown.
Facebook. Complete meltdown. I mean, that share was down 17% yesterday, I think 20% in the last 5 days. It's up slightly today. But all these big tech shares, I mean, Facebook might be the worst. They're down 70% this year. But even Apple's down, Alphabet, Google is down, Tesla's down 40 or 45% this year. These tech shares have taken a hammering. They were the go-go shares for 10 years, which couldn't go wrong buying tech. But the index as a whole, the NASDAQ index, which is the big tech index in America, that must be down 55, 60-odd% this year. But maybe it's a buying opportunity because these companies are massive and they've got huge revenue and they dominate the sector. So maybe he's heading for a bit of a buying opportunity, quite frankly. But yes, there was no company news out today. But the world is still digesting the tech earnings and the Chinese slowdown.
Right. Thanks so much, Wayne, for that update. Wayne from FNB Wealth and Investments. With that, John, I'm even wondering if a company called Richemont, they also finished the day 3% lower, and they make the whole luxury brands, the Van Cleefs and all these names that I can't pronounce, the Cartier watches and all that. And we know the Chinese like their luxury, and I'm just wondering if that stock is being hurt by the mess in China right now.
I do like Wayne McCurry, though, because he always finds a positive somewhere. Yeah? The markets are down. Wow, that's a buying opportunity. Okay.
You gotta love the optimist.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So that's the markets. We're not. I don't know. We'll see what happens next week. It'll be interesting.
Are you in Sandton this weekend?
I'm going to Sandton tonight because I thought I'm brave. I'm rough.
No,
tough. I'm from the West Rand.
No. Tonight's the 28th. We were told the 29th and the 30th.
Yeah. What I dislike about the whole thing, and this is, unfortunately, I ran out of time with our security consultant we were talking to earlier, is it's a very generic, it's maybe in Sandton this weekend, but we don't know for what and where and how. So the speculation has become so much bigger than I think it really is. Is it this event? Is it that event? Then there's Joburg Pride. Oh no, why would they? It's a worry because now everybody's worried. And that's the point that a terrorist wants to do. They want to put fear in the population. And they're successfully doing it just by the media. And I'm going to blame myself for that as well. And I don't want to be that person. I don't want to not go into Sandton because somebody is threatening something. It's like, I was going to use a bad word. It starts with an F. Them.
Yeah.
Don't make my freedom. You're taking away from my freedom, so therefore I will take more freedom. That's kind of what my point of view. But each to their own. If you want to stay at home, Fifi, that's okay.
Chomi, I'm staying at home. In my language, we have this thing called lekwala, and nake lekwala. I am a scary cat. I'm a scary cat. But I hear everything that you've said, and I agree with all the points. Incredibly valid, and I think that's just echoing even what the presidency had said. It was also really irresponsible on the part of the U.S. Embassy, some say, just in terms of the lack of the clear evidence.
Yes.
And as to where this intel is coming from, just a cryptic message. Yeah, the specificities.
Yeah.
I think that's a word.
Yeah.
But too much English for a Friday afternoon.
All right, you go find yourself a cold beverage, whatever that might be, Fifi Peters. Put your feet up. More with Fifi again on Monday here on SAFM.
You're not ordinary, so why should your wedding be? Are you a unique and unconventional couple planning to get married in your own unique and bold way between now and December of 2022? If this sounds like you, then Married Our Way is looking for you. Be a part of our new and exciting wedding show and share your big day with the rest of South Africa on SABC2, where you belong. WhatsApp 060-834-2930.
Michelle Constant on SAFM.
There is a term, presenteeism. So we have absenteeism when someone is absent from work, but presenteeism is when they are at work, but in their brain they are absent. Is that really what quiet quitting is?
Quiet quitting is compounded with a number of things, including mental health, and presenteeism is a variable of mental health. So it's when you are physically not well, but you still show up to do the work, but you're not 100% engaged. So where presenteeism speaks to wellness, quiet quitting is a conscious decision to back off. So whether you're well or not, you just disengage.
Michelle Constant on the Jet Set Breakfast. Beyond the Headline on SAFM. Weekdays 3 to 6 p.m. You are listening to John Gerika on SAFM.
Johnny for Eldrin, we got 12 minutes to take your calls. Let's go to Andrew in Potchefstroom. Hello, Andrew.
Hi, John. I just want to say, don't feel bad. We are in the media space. Your job is to report what is happening in the media without any bias. The only people that should really feel bad here is the U.S. intelligence services. This is not how they do things. They know very well that the last thing you want is to create and cause panic.
Yeah.
So if anybody is to blame for the mishandling of this, I promise you, it's the U.S. And remember, there was a previous caller there. He was saying all the bad things about our state security. No, he's very right about our state security. They're very. I don't trust them. I don't think they are competent. But as bad as they are, American intelligence is not exactly the best in the world that we should follow. But remember, John, BLM riots destroyed many buildings, businesses, and people in America, and the intelligence agents knew about it. But to serve a particular political narrative, they kept quiet about that. People must protest, but they knew that there were dangerous elements in there. They kept quiet about it. January 6th, they knew what was going to happen. They kept quiet about it because it served a particular agenda. When they were evacuating their people out of Taliban, they mishandled it so poorly. They knew what was going to happen. They kept quiet about it.
All right. I'm just going to play devil's advocate for a moment, Andrew. Is those the examples you're bringing up are the examples where they failed? The problem is we don't know about examples where they have been successful because you don't advertise that because you're putting criminals in court and it's all very quiet and nothing happened. They caught people, they put them in or went to trial, and you don't see those stories though.
Exactly. So even the same can be said about our own intelligence agencies.
Yeah,
that the things that they presented we don't know about. And that is exactly how these agencies are supposed to operate. But when it comes to America's case, whenever their intelligence is known, trust you me, there's a particular narrative and agenda that they are following. It is not a coincidence that a certain Russian was coming into this country and then we got this warning.
Yeah, that's in Cape Town.
And one more thing, I don't know why we're being hard on our own people, as incompetent as they are. If South African agencies said to America, this and this is going to happen, America would tell them, Gucci, bugger off, we've got a handle on this, and everybody would be cool with it.
Okay.
Why can't we be cool with it as well?
Andrew Potterstrup.
You cannot trust America, man.
Okay. Andrew Potterstrup with his views. Thank you very much. But I like what he said. Yeah. Imagine our security services went to Washington and said, yeah, there's going to be an attack on your people. What would happen? Scully in Durban. Hello, Scully. Scully.
To you, John.
How's
Thank
it?
you.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. John, my take is that we should stay democratic, man. You know.
Okay.
I once spoke on air to retired Judge Justice David Cameron, and he said, no, they're working on it. He is one of them, that our political system, the voting system, needs a complete overhaul, you know. We should vote other ways, like take other examples, or come out of our own. We have the best constitution in the world. And I take it the Zulu thing tomorrow, just like a initiation, like welcoming the king, like, you know.
Yeah, it's a recognition ceremony by the president that the king is the king.
Okay. Just one last thing, man. Our regular caller, KGM.
Yes.
I haven't heard him for quite a while, man, John. Thank you for being there. Have a good weekend yourself, man.
Scully in Durban, thank you very much for calling. Let's go to, is it Villy in Clarksville? Hello, Villy.
Hey, John, thank you. How are you?
I'm great. How are you, Villy?
Quickly.
I got time. Go ahead.
That's right. In response to the latter callers such as JC Kaunda, who were so concerned about the terrorism threat out in Sandton. Shortly, I could say, and the other guy also supported him, and the third one, to say the borders for us in our country also are the cause of this. It happened out in America. So you remember the guy called the former president of America was so cautious about the borders for us, the immigrants, illegal immigrants. You see, these things, this threat doesn't come from South Africans. The Boko Haram did that before. So therefore, it's a wake-up call, and the so-called intelligence. We've never, ever heard or you've never seen their practical results. So therefore, I think maybe to quell our qualms, our president must be called one day and respond to these threats. It's not for the first time.
All right.
Thank you, John. Have a nice
Excuse me. Villy in Clarksville.